Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. And tonight it's just John from Scarbados. Hey up, John.
Hey
And
up.
hey up. And Chris. I should take Chris from Fockham Hall. So there
You
we are,
should.
live from the independent states. Here we are, across the airwaves. And we've got problems, haven't we, John? Because people like the BBC keep sending propaganda messages through our country, don't they? Without our bit like North and South Korea, isn't it? You know, they're sending all this propaganda stuff that anybody with a television could pick it up. You know, this propaganda.
I know.
Terrible.
Yeah. We
But
ought to definitely ought to get our own TV stations going in our own countries,
yeah,
really, didn't we? Rather than listen
we
to
should do.
the views out from the UK government.
We could put loudspeakers at the borders, couldn't we? Like they do in Korea. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Deb's all right if you're asking where Deb is because she's on a dirty, sorry, I mean a long weekend. And Deborah Hatswell, she's been dragged off by Bigfoot. So she'll be back soon. And we was going to have Shannon on, but it's been her birthday, so we haven't had Shannon. But
Happy
so
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I won't tell anyone how old she is.
no,
No.
but she's a lot younger than us. Is she? Good heavens. Doesn't look it. And I've got some thank yous to do as well. Someone has put a fantastic, by the name of Vord, VORD, and I think I know who it is. I do know who it is. He's put a fantastic review for my dad's book on Amazon. And if you like to look below at the comments section, not comments, what do you call it? The description, that's the word I was looking for. Below here, you'll see a link to not only my dad's book, but John's books, Shannon's books, John's website, Shannon's website, Deb's website, my website, or the BitChute channel, and you can get a link to a picture of my granddad's false teeth as well. So what more could you really want? So that's marvellous, isn't it? And also a big thank you.
String vest, I linked to that. Sorry.
That's right. To Carol Ware. Now, Carol has been very, very kindly made a very good kind contribution with Buy Me a Coffee, which again is below here. And she's bought quite a few coffees for us, which is helping to finance this show. So thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol Ware. Bless you.
Nice, Carol.
Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And I'll evenly share it out. I bought a packet of Smarties for John and some coffees for myself. So there we go. Oh, by the way, I'm not giving him the whole packet, just giving him one Smartie. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. Right. Now we're going to be talking. Yeah, I think you need to do a
well,
call out.
Before I do that, I've got a shout out as well, Chris, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. So just quite a nice little story to begin with. It'll only take a minute, but I think it's interesting. Okay. Now, last Sunday, I went to bingo in Scarborough, as I do sometimes with my friend Karen. And we sat across the aisle from a couple of people, and this lady kept glancing at me, and eventually we got chatting, and she asked my name. I thought it was you, she said. I've seen you on Sheep Farm and on the Eric Von Essex show. And she just happened to be in Scarborough for a 2-day break, and so the synchronicity there was quite incredible, really. She didn't even realize that I live in Scarborough, which made it doubly synchronous, and she was really taken aback to bump into me like that. So anyway, we had a nice chat, and then the four of us, she was with a friend, went for a couple of bevies afterwards, as you do, and we even spent the next evening together too, the Monday evening, the four of us, later on. So it was it's a small world, isn't it? Anyway, the reason for all this is that I said I would give her and a friend a shout out on the next show. So this is a big hi from me to Michelle and a friend Harry from Sheffield. It was lovely to meet you both. Fame at last, eh? They say you've made it big time when you get recognised, don't they? So yeah. So I think it'd be nice if you said hi as well, Chris.
Oh, hello, Michelle. and also I know a Michelle as well. So that's 2 hellos to Michelle, and I also know some Sues as well. So hello to all the Sues that I know. And so, oh, hang on, she's here. This is the Michelle that I know. Here we are. Good evening,
another
Chris.
Michelle.
Hope all is well. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's, and you know Michelle. So was it Michelle? That was a Beatles record, wasn't it?
It was.
Right. So that's fantastic. Now we're
So, yeah.
going.
I hope you enjoy the show.
Nudge. Oh, sorry, John, I overspoke you. Sorry, what was that?
It's all right. I'm overspeaking you as well, so.
But
go on, sorry, Chris.
That's okay. So I'll let you go first. What are you going to say?
Sorry. No, I was just going to listen to you basically. I was just blabbering on about it.
But no, I was going to say is we're going to talk about Nudge. Now, when talk about Nudge, I'm not talking about the Monty Python thing with nudge, nudge, nod, wink. You know what I mean? Not what I mean. Nudge. I'm talking about Nudge, which has been used for ages. And what I'll do is, should we go into chat a little bit later, or should we say a little bit about Nudge first?
Just a quick one. I'm just wondering if Michelle Haywood, I don't actually know what the Michelle I met's surname was. Michelle Haywood says hello. If that is you, Michelle from Sheffield, hiya.
Hello.
Just let us know whether it is you or not.
But she's next to Michelle Salisbury. I know Michelle Salisbury, so we do it through a series of eliminations. But it's quite interesting that when you bump into people. I mean, I've had 2 people. I was in Tesco's one evening. Somebody said, "I know you," and I went, "Huh?"
Oh, really?
Oh, hello, Eric. And I thought, oh. It's really weird when you have a complete stranger come up to you and sort of say hello. And the other one was in Waltham Cross Market. So
what I mean, mate, you've made it when that happens, don't you? I mean, you recognise it's very flattering.
It's true. They've been very nice. They would come up to me and said, "I don't know, you made my dog feel sick whilst something like that." But
my God,
so
right.
Shall we say a little bit about what we can do? We go into chat first of all, shall we? And say hello, everybody, and we get on with Nudge. So
definitely.
First of all,
we'll crack on with the nonsense. Yeah,
we got Aunt Sally. She will be listening whilst walking her dogs. So no lines for being late. So there we go.
Okay, just this one, Sally.
Just this one. And then we got Bob Hollyoak. I think if my memory serves me right, you're from Rugby. I think that's right. We got Sebastian Moran. Hello, Sebastian. Could be the person who did the review of the book. Don't know. And we've got here, what else we got? Oh, we got Richard. Richard on Solent. Evening all from a refreshingly rainy south coast. Oh, it's quite dry here. Hang on, I'll have a quick deck out the window. Yeah, it looks pretty dry.
Here too.
Really?
Just looking outside, it's raining. Yeah.
It's like a bleeding desert in the south here. We got Kat Holdsworth. Hello all, Chris and John, looking forward. And then we've got Louise. Hello everyone. That's nice. And then we got thanks Robert. Bless you. It's hello, all thumbs up. Everyone, remember to share and comment. Thank you very much. Yes, share and comment. That's it. Oh, I must say a little thing about comments. I believe it's politeness to answer every comment that people put in. And I do apologise. I've been a bit lax this week. I haven't answered everybody's comment.
Well,
so
I'm sorry,
please don't
take lines for you now.
Sorry? Lines for me, yeah.
Lines for you now, yeah.
I had a note from my parents, so but don't take it personally. I haven't answered your comments. I do read them. So there we go. And we do a call out for John in Siam. Hello, John in Siam. And he comments on BitChute. So there's a plug from a BitChute channel, which is, the link is down here. And I know that some servers you can't get BitChute on. And I did hear that BitChute and brand YouTube have had a hacker getting into them. Now, I checked being a selfish git, I checked my channel. It's perfectly okay at the moment. So I don't think the hackers got there. But they've been trying to screw up brand YouTube and BitChute. But as far as I can tell, it's still working okay. And we've got Hatchy. Hi all. We got Dan MC, Oi Oi Savaloy, Ancient Ruby. That's nice, isn't it? Good evening, Chris,
Hi,
John, and
Ruby.
all the. There we go. And who else we got? We've got anybody? If I've missed anybody, we've got Michelle. I love the little. The title of tonight's show sounds very intriguing. No, you know what I mean. No. We got V. Hello, V. McCrinnan. I think you're from Bristol or Bath, aren't you? Good evening, Exo. Yes, you forgotten the O at the beginning of that, Oxo. Right. Now I think we better. We've got loads of people.
Chris,
sorry,
that's an American thing. That O, it just means hug. I found that from Shannon. Shannon used to sign that email to me XO, and I said, "What the hell does O mean?" She said it means hug. So it's kiss and hug.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
we've also got Paul Green.
Line,
it's raining in Wigan as well, but it's not raining in Southeast in Fockham Hall. Right, so let's get on with nudge, shall we? It's intriguing. What is nudge? Well, the government. Would you like me to start, or do you want to start, John? Shall I start? Or?
No, you start, mate. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nudge. The government makes no, but makes no excuses for having a nudge unit, and they say they use it for the Inland Revenue or the tax department if you're in America. And sorry, yes.
I just said.
Yes, the Scrooge department. Yeah, but they say that it's to help people pay their taxes more easily and increase the revenue. Or something. I think it's bullshit actually, but no, nudge. Now it's been employed for years, and if you go back to, and I'm going to bore everybody now because I said this 1,000 times before, but nudge was employed after the First World War. So, and it's time to make a cup of tea. And now, after the First World War, because as you know, people went off to fight the war in 1914, and they were conscripted in 1916 to fight for a land fit for heroes, a land of milk and honey, and we'll be coming back to a new normal. Where have we heard that before? Where it'd be a better world, where everything will be marvelous. Well, we know what happened with the monetary system, where the country was bankrupt in 1914 and couldn't afford the war. So we issued interest-free notes called the Bradbury Pound, but that's a totally different subject. And in 1916, when Lloyd George became Prime Minister, we don't know what happened, but he abolished the Bradbury Pound, which was based on the efficacy of the country and not alone from the banks. And it's suspected, and there's no evidence of this, that Lloyd George put his seed around quite a lot, and there was about 100 illegitimate children, allegedly. And maybe the banksters went in there and said, wouldn't be nice if the press heard of this, would it, Lloyd or George? As you know, or David. Yeah. So we don't know what happened, but anyway, he abolished the Bradbury Pound, and the last one was printed in 1927. So you had these groups of people coming back from the First World War, all knowing how to use arms, but they've been trained to use arms, and of course they could buy the arms over the counter like you can in, I believe, Texas in America. And then the government didn't need any laxatives at all at that time, because they realized that these people come back from the First World War will be coming back to worse poverty than when they left. And of course they could buy guns over the counter, so the 1920s Firearms Act was rushed through Parliament really fast to stop people buying arms. And there was militant groups that were set up, and what the government did was to the Secret Service infiltrated these militant groups, and some of the infiltrators were listening, making notes of what's going on, and then the other infiltrators were there to trash the leaders of these militant groups, because there was riots going on up and down the country, and the country was on the edge of a revolution.
Yeah.
Now, this is where nudge comes in, because a very famous Veterans Association was set up in 1921. The Royal British Legion. Sorry, it wasn't the Royal then, but it's British Legion, allegedly, I believe. And I believe, allegedly, that what they did, they told people what they wanted to hear. It was a peaceful organisation. And in the 1930s, they actually sent a peace delegation over to Germany to speak to Hitler for peace talks. It was a pacifist organisation. And because there was a very strong anti-war feeling after the First World War, or the Great War as it was known then. And again, it told people what they wanted to hear. And in 1939, through my research and what I believe, allegedly, sorry, I'm trying to keep on the legal side here, they became more politicized, and they nudged people in the direction of where they wanted people to believe. So it went away from, it turned people's attention away from revolution and blowing the brains out of psychopaths, through to saluting the king as he was then, and wearing their medals and patriotism. And it worked. It was brilliant. It actually worked. And it worked so well that the CIA in the 60s, when America was on the verge of a revolution, started the hippie movement. And of course, this is another thing that the Secret Services did after the First World War. They had a spiritual awakening. And they had loads of people going, oh, we're going to have a spiritual awakening. Because again, whilst people are thinking there's going to be a spiritual awakening, they're not thinking about blowing the brains out of psychopaths, are they? So all what's happening now has happened before. And when I hear people saying there's a spiritual awakening, yeah, very nice, I hope there is. But what are you going to do about the situation? And again, it's all very clever. And this is nudge. It's nudging people, and it's to do with ideological subversion. Now, if you go onto Yuri Bezmenov, if you tap him in on YouTube, who's my hero, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, although his death was a little bit suspicious. He may well be, who knows. But he said with ideological subversion, what you do is like a fist that's coming towards you. Now, you don't stop that fist, you help it along. So if there's a militant group, you help it, and then you smash it into the wall. And I can see the same happening today. I won't mention any broadcasters or any thing on television or anything like that, but just bear that in mind when you see people on the mainstream media telling you what you want to hear. You can be pretty sure that there's going to be some nudge used later on, because I call them Pied Pipers. They get a following, and then they push that following away from negative thoughts and to the thoughts that they want you to believe, and people will fall for it. And that basically, in a nutshell, is nudge. Over to you, John.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with everything you said there, Chris. I mean, you summed it up perfectly, but I mean, I think it goes way beyond that now. I mean, I think at one time, as you rightly said, the historical context, that you've just mentioned is totally correct. But now, not that I watch the mainstream media if I can possibly avoid it, but sometimes I do get drawn into it through no particular, intention. But then it kind of it's mesmerizing, and everything you see on BBC News 24, for example, is propaganda. It's problem reaction solution, all of it. And problem reaction solution, or the Hegelian dialectic, is just another way of fulfilling this nudge situation. It's more than a nudge now. It's become more than a nudge. It's an absolute blatant push. So they even make any pretense about it now. It's just so damn blatant. I'm sure everyone out there knows what problem reaction solution is, the Hegelian dialectic. and that is, well, the aim of it is to provoke a desired reaction in order to justify the solution that they want to happen. There's so many examples of it. Terrorism, the 19, and lots of other things that are going on constantly. They're constantly in our faces with all kinds of propaganda, pushing us, nudging us, if you like, down this road, down the agenda that they want us to believe is the truth. And it's nothing more than group mind manipulation in so many ways. I mean, these people, and I've said this several times on the show, let alone on other podcasts, these people are masters of the human psyche. They know exactly which levers to pull, which buttons to press in the human mind. And, they have armies of people whose job it is to manipulate our emotions, to manipulate our thoughts, and to propagandize to the extent that, that we don't even realize that it's happening to us. And it's just become an industry. So it's not just a few isolated instances. Now, you could argue quite reasonably that the whole of society is being nudged permanently and in massive ways. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with what you said, Chris, but it's gone way, way beyond that now, way, way beyond it. And I think, again, I've said this before, they're getting desperate, and so they step up the agenda, and we're seeing that now.
By the way, if I could just come in there,
Yeah.
this is John's website, which is I've shown below here. So, if you want to hear more from John about what he does and that's his website. So, sorry, John, carry on, please. I think you're saying, what's this history.co.uk?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for example, look at polling. Polling. I mean, that was initially used in the run up to the First World War in order to persuade people to support the war against Germany, and it's a unsophisticated way, if you like, of group mind manipulation. But it ultimately works in the same way. It preys upon our desire to be accepted, but it also seeks to sway our opinions and decisions to act upon those opinions by showing us the probability by which our opinions and actions will be met with either acceptance or opposition. And there's been lots of psychological experiments done down the ages which prove that we humans are very susceptible to groupthink, i.e., we are influenced by the opinions of others all the time. For example, if we're in a group of people and they are all expressing a particular opinion, we are very reluctant to oppose that opinion. It's just a natural state for us. I mean, this is a generalization. I know some people are, they're quite contrarian and they actually relish that kind of situation. But I'm generalizing here. The majority of humans are very, very susceptible to groupthink, to fall in line with, the general opinion. So polls are basically, they're all lies anyway. So they appear in newspapers, polls on various different things, and it's just another way of influencing people. For example, in elections, okay, you see lots of stories illustrating just how terrible the country would be under Labour or under Conservatives, depending on what slant they're wanting. All next to polls that suggest that the Labour and the Conservatives are neck and neck. And this technique just absolutely instills in people how important their vote is, and therefore influences people to vote in opposition to what they tell us is this impending doom. So this is exactly how it works. It's all theatre, in fact, and it's a kind of a divide and conquer strategy as well. I don't know if you want to take it up from there again, Chris.
Well, yes, that's fascinating because the health service, they use nudge a lot, and their common one is the silent killer. a splinter in your finger, the silent killer. So, oh, my godfather could kill me, you know. You've trodden on a nail, the silent killer. And the other one, yes, no, you could tread on a nail or something, you know, anything like that. The silent killer. Well, yeah, if you get sort of footfalls off, I suppose it is really. But then I've noticed the other thing they do is, I was looking at YouTube the other day, and I didn't have a sick bag handy, and Killery Jones came on. And I thought, bloody hell, you know, quick,
switch off.
And he said, and it's always, listen up, guys. He's selling some bloody crap. I don't know what it is, but it's always to do with medicine. It's listen up, guys, if it's for men, and if it's for women, it's, have you heard? A lot of ladies are talking about, because I know that women talk more. So that is how they do it. And again, it's you know, all the ladies, everyone's talking about. So you are left out if you're not talking about whatever it is they want to push, you know. But they're doing this all the time, and the silent killer, all this, and it's all to do with stress, because stress and worry gets people spending money. And they think, oh, you know, sort of sunburn, the silent killer. Oh, you better put some shit on your head or something to stop you getting sunburn, you know. But all you have to do is just put the silent killer after it. And the other one is cars. You see, you build a car and just put eco after it. So, you know, you could have an old Morris 1000. But if you put eco Morris 1000, yes, it's brilliant. You know, again, this is all nudged to give you a fantasy, a feeling of whatever. You know? But we got a really active
going to chat
tonight. So we're going to chat, and also I'm showing off my banners tonight. And whilst John was talking,
don't look, ladies, whatever you do.
Yeah, don't look. He had we had his book, we had his website flashing, so we got a flasher there. And also, if you need to contact John, that's his Gmail. It's jch120752@gmail.com. So if you want to send him a few quip, you know, so that he sent it through there.
So that was him.
And also, we've got here, and if I'm booted off of PukeTube for any reason, please go to Fockham Hall Radio. There it is, and I'll put on there the reason why I've been booted off, and you'll find everything on there, information. I'm also on Telegram. There's Telegram. So if you look up Fockham Hall Radio on Telegram, I'm on there as well. And I'll put a little tiny thank you for Deb, who's having a nice break this week. And she's on Codes of the Unknown. She's live interviews every Friday, 8 p.m. So GMT. And the host of that show may be on this show. So this space. So there it is. That's for Deb. And they'll be back soon. But let's go into chat, have a quick shifty in chat. Now, where do I start? It's absolutely right. Let's go back here. Now, this is an interesting one from Robert Moore. Yeah, people need, what's this, proctologist, psychologist?
Proctologist, yeah.
Someone to pull their head out.
It's get your head out your ass, basically.
Yeah, to head out and tell them what to think. They just look at people and say, you're not using your mind. Mind if I try. Well, it's funny you should say that, because many years ago when my dear old dad was alive, we watched this documentary about the what's that? Veterans Hospital in Chelsea Pensioners. And poor old daddy just had a stroke, and he was sort of sitting down there, and we just put the television. That's when I had a television. We were looking at it, and there was a chap that lived in a fantastic house, bungalow. Sorry, not a house, bungalow, and his wife did everything for him, and she died. And he had this beautiful garden. She had his bungalow, beautiful. It really was a nice place. But he decided to go and become a Chelsea pensioner. So he moved from that to some shitty one room with no windows, a bed, bunk bed. And he said, we thought, is this bloke rather a twist? And he said, oh, great. He said, I don't have to think now. He said, my wife thought did everything. I don't have to wash my clothes or iron or anything. And I'm just told what to do. He said, I don't like thinking. And I'll never forget, my dad and I just looked at each other and went, huh? He just didn't want to think, too bleeding lazy to think. So,
but if I may just jump in there, Chris, if I may just jump in, I mean, this is what they're training us from birth to do. You know, they want us to be totally unthinking beings and to be totally dependent on the nanny state. You know, I know that phrase nanny state's bandied around a lot, but it's true. You know, they want us to be totally subservient to that, and they want to be able to think for us. And this is, you know, it's totally relevant to the topic tonight. This is exactly what they're doing. You know, and they are using, they are first of all, they're making us into unthinking clones. You know, go along with whatever they hear and read in media. And then secondly, they're just leading us by the nose wherever they want to take us. In other words, towards their agendas, which are manifold.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I've got to be careful what I say because I'm on YouTube, but I believe there's an agenda where the crime rate will go through the roof because of certain things that are happening in Dover, if you get what I mean. I've got to be a bit careful what I say. They're letting lots of things happening. And the reason why is because they want a similar system. They want crime rate to go over through the roof, because then they can actually introduce social credits. Because then they can keep everybody in check, and people go, oh yes, we'll have that because we'll lower the crime rate. So I think that's possibly one of the things.
Yeah, just an extension to that as well, Chris, if I may.
Yeah.
Me, Dave, the survivalist, and his partner were in Ireland not last month before. It was the end of June, I think. And we got talking to an Irish guy, and he said, "You do realise what's happening, don't you?" He said, "Dover is so and so well policed now that it's very difficult, you know, for that many people to actually enter through that route." So what's happening is they're actually going to the southern tip of Ireland. He said, and then once in Ireland, they said there's no passport required, there's no entry requirements to get into the UK, so they're just all pouring through Ireland as well. So, you know, it's a double whammy, if you like.
But it's a problem.
You get on a ferry in Ireland, and they don't even check your document. You don't have to show a passport or a driving license or anything. You just get on a ferry and you come across. The assumption being that you're already there legitimately, so there's no checks made.
Well, you know that Calais is going to be twinned with the DHSS. But no, it's you know. But I like what Sebastian has said. Hello, Sebastian. The counter-revolution sees them off. I think that's what Chairman Mao said, isn't it? And it says, no, you won't change the children of the revolution. And then we've got here, Louise Wilcox says, the Babylonian system has nudged itself into the open eyes of the men and women of the world. But, you know, it's very interesting. Again, what Ancient Ruby says, all propaganda and this will be the worst ever. Well, it's that chap Bernays, wasn't it? He was the father of Edward Bernays, was the father of propaganda, and because the word fell out of fashion, they changed it to public relations. So, you know, now this is an interesting one Ancient Ruby's come up with. I heard today that supermarkets, yes, I saw the headline, it was to do with Iceland, I believe, are going to offer loans to the poor for food. I mean, how ridiculous and just so wrong on all levels. Well, that's right. The headline I saw that the supermarket not the country. Iceland were considering doing this, allegedly. But we're going back to the 1890s.
Yeah, it's just another way of getting people into debt, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, my granddad used to talk about when he got off the train from work, there used to be poor children huddling round on the platform, begging for food, not money, food. They were starving. And he said that was quite common. They'd wait for the rush hour and wait until the people, because they thought, well, obviously they had money if they worked in London. And he said it was horrendous, And now, Cat Holdsworth has said, but apparently the money indirectly comes from government. Well, yes and no. I mean, I personally, I've got no time for hierarchy systems or government, because both are stifle creativity and stifle the individual. I mean, you look at the service.
Vote for the Anarchy Party.
Yeah, but look at government.
Vote for the Anarchy Party. That's right.
Yeah, you vote for anarchy. But would it be total? I mean, when you look at it, where there's no government, things work fine because governments don't rule countries. Usually,
this is why anarchy is demonized all the time. It's made out to be men wearing black cloaks and carrying bombs. Anarchists, anarchy.
Yeah.
Ooh, anarchy, bad. It's not at all. It's just a kind of a. It's a form of government. Not the same kind of form of government that we have throughout the world now, but it's much more of a socialized, and I hate using that word because of what that's come to mean, but it's kind of a socialized kind of government where everyone has a say in their own destiny, and they're not relying or looking up to a body of people who are telling us to do this, that, and the other. That's all that anarchy is. But of course, that's demonized because they don't want that. They don't want people to think that there's a better system out there. God, where would that leave them?
Well, that's right. I mean, I don't vote and I'm not political, but the British Constitution Party, which I happen to know the chap who advises the British Constitution Party. It's a town crier. I don't know if he's on here tonight, but they believe in doing everything at a local level. So you don't have government as such. So you'll have your local area, which will be probably trying to outdo another local area with nice flowers and nice buildings and nice things. And
it all sounds very idealistic, but it does. There are systems, anarchical systems that do work.
Well, I think that they call it the Wild West. Now, the reason they call it the Wild West because there was no government in the Old West with the settlers and that, and there was very few outlaws. And if you look at Hollywood, you think it was all full of gunfights and outlaws and that, but it wasn't. There were very few and far between. And I know this because an elderly gent was on a quiz program, and you can see it on YouTube. I wish I'd have actually got the links here. And it was the mid-50s. It's all grainy black and white in America. And he knew Jesse James, this chap, and he was a sheriff. And he said that the people were very law-abiding. He said you could put all your valuables on a kitchen table, leave the door open, and nobody would steal it. But they call it the Wild West, and Hollywood is making it look as if the law and order was just out the window, because that's the opposite. They want you to believe that, but actually it worked very, very well. And sometimes the locals deals with the Indians, although it didn't always happen like that. But no, it wasn't that wild.
Hey, look at the most famous gunfight of all in the Wild West, the gunfight at the OK Corral. There were 3 people killed. I mean, and that was big news. It was massive news, 3 people killed at the OK Corral, And, other than that, there were obviously isolated incidents and murders and stuff, but it wasn't right, as you said quite rightly, Chris, it wasn't rife like they pretend it was. I think it's just theatre, isn't it? Like everything else, it's just.
Well, it makes a film. It's a bit like the old news idea. Dog bites man, that's not news. Man bites dog, that is news. So they got to hype it all up. But talking about local level, now where I live, it's semi-rural. There's trees and you know, well, it was until this building on it. I mean, I'm next door, almost next door to me, is a building site where they're building more properties and more properties. And of course, what's going with it is crime, because I live in the home counties, and already now this would have been unheard of 10 or 20 or even more years ago. Where I live, within the last couple of months, there was a chappie at a party, and he stabbed a woman, then legged it, and ended up in down the cul-de-sac where I live in my neighbour's garden. And the police were here, and the Black Maria came along, and it's chaos. And this is a quiet rural area, something you would never expect. Now, in the local town, a couple of days ago, there's a couple of people, apparently, I don't know the full story, with machetes threatening robbing people on a train station. Now, that's something that you'd unheard of. And this is in a very out of the way sort of place where I live. It's unheard. I mean, I'm about 5 miles from the nearest railway station. But to think it's coming close, you know, people with machetes threaten to rob people and get money from people. Lucky the police got them. But, you know, it's like the Wild West here. But in the Wild West, you know, as you said, you know, gunfight, the OK Corral, there's only 3 people shot. So, you know, it's sort of, and a lot of these outlaws, they're a bit like Robin Hood characters. They used to take from the rich and give to the poor. So, you know, but this is an interesting. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. Carry on. No, just say continue with chat. That's fine. Yeah.
No, okay. Smoggy G, the Jesuits did this in the 18th century and caused the French Revolution. Now, that's an interesting one, Smoggy G, because we're hoping to do a show, obviously not on YouTube, entitled Who is the Enemy? Okay, because in a war, you generally know who the enemy is. But this is the first one where we don't know who the enemy really is. And some people say it's the Jesuits, and some people say it's the Masons, and some people say it's Jehovah's Witnesses, and some people say it's all manner of things. But let's face it, if you're a psychopath like the elites, you're going to throw out false herrings, aren't you? You're going to throw putting people down blind alleys.
Yeah. Just to address my point there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris, but just to address that point, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, but it's not just Jesuits. You could apply, you know, absolutely agree that they're culpable for a lot of stuff, but it's a whole raft of different organisations. Chris said, you know, some of them beginning with J, some of them, as I say, Masons. You know, there are various different factions, and it's all a bit of a mishmash. But yeah, there is a whole bunch of different organisations that are, you know, could quite legitimately be claimed for various reasons to be behind everything that's going on. But it's not just one faction; it's a lot of them. Of which you're right, the Jesuits are part of it, without a doubt.
I think it was in your book, John, wasn't it? It's Behind the Curtain about the French Revolution. Is it where I read it there?
Yeah, I cover it there. I mean, I cover it in there. I don't specifically mention the Jesuits, but
no, I know that, and I think it's more to do with, I think it's more the Rothschilds. But the way I look at it is a consortium of psychopaths. So it doesn't matter what religion they are or what race.
No matter what label you attach to them. Yeah, I mean, it's the same group.
The way I look on it, our enemy is the psychopaths. Only the ones that harm humans. There are psychopaths that are harmless to humans. Leave them alone. But I think. But the trouble is, you know, they haven't got an antenna growing out of their head or something like that, or a flashing neon sign saying "I am a psychopath" above their head. How do you tell them apart? And it's only by their actions. And we don't want to witch hunt, but that is the true enemy. It doesn't matter whether they're black, white, green, pink, or what colour they are. If they're a psychopath that's against humans, they're our enemy, and that's it. Because, you know, but this is an interesting one. Ancient Ruby said they are targeting everything that we care about or need in our lives. It truly is a people's war. Yet so many ignore what is happening. Stupid, lazy humans. Well, look what happened. Was it Krakatoa? I think it was. There was a report from a survivor that said, and I think it was Krakatoa, because it was the loudest sound ever known to human beings, that there was clerks still filing paper away and doing what they should be doing, whilst lava is starting to shake. No, it wouldn't have been Krakatoa. It's somewhere where there's a volcanic eruption in the Victorian times. Somebody in chat might know where it was, and where clerks were
sure you don't mean Pompeii?
Sorry?
Are you sure you don't mean Pompeii? Because when Vesuvius erupted, the people didn't even realise that Vesuvius was a volcano because it had not erupted for hundreds of years, and the stories of it erupting had obviously got lost in the mist of time, so they weren't even aware of what a volcano was. So when all that mayhem began, they obviously were terrified because they thought the gods were angry. But they didn't really run because they didn't know what was coming. Sorry. Anyway, that was a digression.
No, that's a good point. But no, this was in the Victorian times. I can't remember where it was, but it was a volcanic eruption where lava was running down the street. It might have been Hawaii. I don't know. And a survivor said the clerks were still filing paper away and in the clerk's office doing what they should do, whilst lava is just floating past the street. And this bloke legged it and he escaped. But he said people just going, that was a sort of Victorian stiff upper lip, a bit like the film The Titanic, which we won't go into that. But, in the film, where they dress in their Sunday best, ready for the ship to go down. That's a little bit of theatre, I think. Yeah.
But that was allegedly Benjamin Guggenheim, one of the Federal Reserve opposers.
Do you think he actually did it? I mean, we'll never know, will we? Him and his servant dressed in their best.
I think he's a myth. It doesn't appear in any contemporary newspaper reports. I mean, I've checked just about every single English-speaking newspaper on the planet when I was researching Titanic, for the headlines, and it never doesn't mention that anywhere. So where that story's come from, I think it's just drama. I think
it is, isn't it? I mean, they had Kenneth Moore, was it?
And don't forget, of course, Guggenheim was one of the victims, of, I'm going to say. And so it's just a blind to cover up his death, because they said all the three Federal Reserve opponents, Guggenheim, Strauss, and Astor, nobody knows what happened to them at all, other than Astor. The other two's bodies weren't found. Strauss allegedly went and laid in his stateroom with his wife and just calmly and patiently waited to die together. So that's a nice romantic little story for you. But the guy, Astor, his body was found about 4 days later because they sent out ships from Halifax, Nova Scotia to pick up the bodies. And his body was totally unrecognizable. His face had been beaten to a pulp. It was only recognized by the contents of his pocket. And there was $10,000 in his pocket, which in those days was, it was a fortune. And, just his normal, he had a wallet, obviously, with identification of some kind in it. So they identified his body that way. But, I mean, it's significant to me that his face was battered to a pulp. Why would that be? Anyway, another digression. On we go.
This actually goes back to, I think, what Sebastian was saying once. Now, I don't know where he found the evidence from, and I hope you don't think I'm sort of coming in on, because you're the expert on Titanic, but there was allegedly some people saw a gun battle on board the ship whilst it was going down.
It was a gun battle. Yeah. It wasn't so much a gun battle as one of the officers shooting passengers. That was William Murdoch, the first officer, and there are eyewitness reports, again, using contemporary newspaper reports, which are often, the best, shall we say, test of any particular incident that ever happens. The actual first reports that come out are always the most accurate till they decide on the agenda and then they pull them. But yeah, several passengers witnessed Murdoch shooting passengers who were trying to get on the lifeboat, and then he allegedly felt such remorse as to why he'd done it. He shot about 5 or 6 people that he turned the gun on himself and shot himself. Now his family deny that, his surviving family deny that, but I believe that to be true. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, I think that does sound true. Sometimes when there's a disaster happening, a kind of madness sets in. People go mad.
Yeah.
It's a sort of an insanity there, you know. But
Yeah.
Sebastian said, what was it? The company store. That's
I
interesting.
sold my soul to the company store.
Yes. Now, this is an interesting one. Louise says, I must say, my friend, as the majority of people need apps nowadays to tell them how to live, even the psychiatric profession is on its way out with the current times. Well, most psychiatrists.
We can only hope, Louise.
That's right. But no, psychiatrists need psychiatrists. Now, this is an interesting one. Dan MC on Mac. There's ELF frequencies being broadcast on the airwaves, nudges. There's several systems and they are ran by AI. A channel called Lookout for Charlie on YouTube evidence it. Now
Thanks,
that
Dan.
is,
It's interesting.
thanks, Dan. That really is a fantastic one because I remember, I mean, I've got to be a bit careful about talking about towers which transmit things because it's YouTube. But sorry, I'm doing all the actions here. But I remember years ago, my dad was a shortwave enthusiast. He used to listen to shortwave, and he used to tune into the Soviet Union station that had the woodpecker. You ever heard that? And it's just a sound go, and people believe, yeah, it sounded like a woodpecker, and just says, and then it would stop, and then they had number stations where people would read out numbers, and nobody's fully understood what they were for. They believe it was to do with the Cold War and spies and whatever. So, but who knows? But this woodpecker, a lot of people say it was mind control.
Yeah.
And they've started it up again. So who knows? Now, this is an interesting one. Never met a single person who's had their opinion asked for a poll. Yeah, no.
Me neither.
No. Yeah, this is what gets me. I'll tell you what annoys me nowadays. When you buy anything, it's how did we do? You know, I bought something really insignificant the other day from a place, and what was it now? God, it doesn't really matter. And it cost me about less than £1. And I got an email through from, how did we do? I just went in and bought some, I think it was, it was some glue, some bleeding glue that I bought. How did we do? Well, so what? I just went in there, glue please, put my money on the counter, got the change, and buggered off out. I mean, what can I say about it? You know?
You should have written back, Chris, and said, well, it got me quite high, but it wasn't as potent as the last one that I bought.
It's like I was in Poundland. Excuse me, dropping a few posh names, you know. Similar as diet. Was it?
You posh people shopping in these exclusive shops. I don't know.
Yeah, I raise a little finger when I go in there. Was it Dollar Tree? I think they have in America, it's equivalent. And I bought some glue because Yoo-Hoo glue is pretty good in there. And when I went to the self-service, because it's I don't normally use self-service. I like to use a cashier because it's preventing people with their jobs. But there's just one cashier with a bleeding great queue, and I was in a hurry. And as it was glue, it set off all this. I had to wait for somebody to authorise it. And I sort of said to the girl, I said, I'm just 17 tomorrow, you know, can you let this through? You know, I don't think she believed me. Right. I like this one. Louise Wilcox, the day I hear the Tories and Labour are neck and neck in a noose, it is the day I will believe in democracy. I like that. In a noose is the day I believe. I love that. A neck and neck in a noose. Oh, that is a brilliant one.
I never vote, as you know. because the problem is with voting is that the government always gets in.
Yeah.
So it's just pointless.
I think we should treat them to medieval bungee jumping. You know what medieval bungee jumping is? That is where it's a solid rope. Instead of tied around the legs, it's tied around the neck. And you can only do it once, but it's medieval. Oh, that's a classic from Louise. That really is.
That's too good for them, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yet they are forcing this upon us and took away choice like everything else. We need to keep awakening those that follow the BS. Yes. Now, once this Sebastian says, download the psychiatry app, Freud on demand.
Right.
Well, did you know? I was told that Mr. Spock on Star Trek was a piss take of Dr. Spock. So I heard.
I'd heard something along similar lines. Yeah.
Yeah, because he did have a sense of humour. The real Dr. Spock didn't have a sense of humour. Which was sod. His latest video: 2 guys rob a store and a vape shop, and the shop assistant actually stabs and kills one of them. The CCTV footage is analysed, and there's several voices. It is everywhere. Scary. Ooh, you know. Right, let's have a look. There's loads in chat. I can't do it. Terribly sorry, I can't read everybody's out. Now it says it. Louise again. They can try whatever they want, but with some knowledge and common sense, I'll survive. They can shove their mobiles. Yes.
Very good, Louise.
It was really weird. We are so used to seeing human beings around now. Not very far from where I live, there's this enormous great forestry area called the Lee Valley. And I was given my push bike a test run because I've just done it because I was given another wreck and I did it up, you see. So I thought, I'll go down the Lee Valley. And I was cycling along and it was really remote and I went for ages without seeing anybody. And it got me, it's a beautiful day, but it got me a bit sort of concerned. It's weird. And cycling along, and woodland leaves both sides of you. And I thought, well, if there's anything to happen to me, nobody would find me, would that? Just sort of, just disappear. Anyway, I went 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to something. And suddenly in the distance I saw 2 people with a dog. I thought, civilization at last. I was thinking Bigfoot might run out in front of me, but Bigfoot could have survived in that. I tell you, that's huge. Now, this is an interesting one. Sebastian says, never meant clever, as you know. They love to manipulate words and anything else they can. Well, look what we've got with words. Spell. We spell, don't we?
Yeah, and smart technology stands for self-monitoring and reporting technology. What does that tell us?
Yes. There's something else which I can't say because it's YouTube about what's happened over the last 2 years, what it actually stands for, but I can't say it because obviously it's YouTube. I'll get booted off. Now it says here.
Whisper it, Chris. Just whisper it. Sorry, I'm just joking.
Valid ID. That's what it stands for. Yeah. Over 50s are more of a target because we keep others thinking. Well, that's right. I mean, before
I'll tell
smart.
You when I'm over 50, Ruby.
Sorry.
Yeah. I said I'll tell you when I'm over 50.
Yes, I've yet to reach there. My nose has just got a bit longer. Can you smell bullshit? Yeah. Right. This is Richard on Solo. Hello, Richard. Evening, Christian John. John, read your comments a week or 2 ago about the City of London and the new NWO, shall we say. Are they worried about religious extremists or authors like you? Do you feel vulnerable?
That's a good question, Richard. I would say that when you reach a certain level of popularity, you do have something to be worried about because they have no qualms about politely silencing people. But certainly at my level, no, I'm not worried. And anyway, you know, even if I was of the stature of somebody like Mr. Ike and not part of the problem, uh, I still wouldn't be worried because I'm a bit of a fatalist, and what I mean by that is, I mean that everything is preordained. I absolutely believe. I'm not saying we've got no free will at all, but I certainly believe that our lives are mapped out for us, and it's virtually impossible to escape your fate, whatever that might be. Uh, a bit like, I mean, that series of films, Final Destination, where you just, for those who are aware, it was about this group of teens. It's a kind of a teen film, and I just remember seeing it with my youngsters when they were teenagers. And the theme is that you just cannot escape death. So even if somebody warns you that you're going to be in a fatal accident, or has a premonition about it, and you manage to escape death that time, death comes stalking you. So that's a kind of a silly example in a way, but I actually believe that we've just got to accept our fate, and I'm not scared of death anyway, so it doesn't bother me. I mean, I know that we don't, at the end of this life, we don't wither and die. I think we go on to, I'm not sure what, but we go on to other things, whether that be reincarnation or to a different place. But I don't believe that we die, so it doesn't frighten me in any way. So I just do what I do, and to hell with the consequences, basically.
Yes, I think that's. I agree with you there, because Richard D. Hawkes was on similar lines. I went to see him once. I've met him a couple of times, and he said that if they're going to take him out, they'll take him out. It's when you become a threat, a big threat to them. We're small fry. I mean, very small fry. But I mean, what gets me is, for example, with the viewing figures, it shows about 500 or 600 every week. But I know for a fact it goes into the thousands, and they do that, But I can't say much more than that. But I think that it's strange. What I do now, and I don't know whether you've done this. I think pretty sure you probably do this, John. I listen to my gut feeling a lot more, because when you're a teenager, you don't. You say, oh, everything's all right. But I listen to my gut feeling, and I think, should I do this? Should I do that? And my gut feeling, not always right, but 9 times out of 10 it's right.
Yeah, I always believe that you it may not seem like it at the time, but you make the right decisions. You might make a disastrous decision, but that disastrous decision actually leads you down another path that you're meant to go down. So at the time it seems like a disaster, but in the long run, it actually takes you where you're meant to go.
I think one more qualification for the University of Life.
Yeah. So I don't worry about decisions. I just, like you say, Chris, I just make a decision based on what I believe to be the best of a bad bunch, possibly. And with the view in the back of my mind, I don't always think about it consciously, but kind of subconsciously think that, well, wherever this decision takes me, this is where my life is meant to go. So,
well, I'll give you
but nevertheless, I swear by it, and it's never failed me, really. To be fair, I mean, all right, I've had some bad times in my life. Who hasn't? But you can't. It's impossible to avoid those. So whatever you do, whatever rational and considered decisions you make, you're still going to make bad ones. You're still going to make ones that you regret. And have I got regrets in my life? Bloody hell, absolutely hundreds of regrets in my life. But at the end of the day, you've got to play the hand that you dealt, and
You're
play
right.
your ability.
What about connections? We'll look at these sort of different connections. I'll give you another one with connections. Now, a couple of years ago, I was using an internet connection, which was crap. And people probably remember about 2 years ago, with things were going like this all the bloody time. And especially when I did that Bigfoot show with that chappie in America and Shannon, bloody hell, it was jumping and going terrible. Now, I spoke to you, John. Now, if I didn't know you, I'd have probably still been dealing with internet companies and that crap. He said, no, get an internet, a SIM router. Best thing I've ever done. Get rid of your landline. And
Yeah,
it's because we're conditioned to look on a landline. Oh, we got to have a landline. Why?
yeah,
It's the best thing I ever did. I don't get any. I got a lot of obscene phone calls. I got a lot of trolls on the
yeah.
landline. Don't get that now. So
Good.
and it was nothing but problems. I haven't got cables all around me house. Well, I still have because I've got telephone sockets, but not so many. Like where you had to have a telephone. Telephone rang, you had to keep running to it. No, I think you're right. Now you think that is something negative that happened, pushed me onto a positive, because
Yeah,
thanks to you, you told me, well, don't bother with a landline, and that got my way of thinking totally different. I thought, well, hang on, and do you remember I was saying, hey, he said, yeah, do away with the landline. I went, hey, what? It's sort of, but it jolted me
yeah,
into a different direction, and it's surprising how one thing leads to another. And I also think that people and things happen in your life at a time when it's supposed to happen, even though you think it isn't supposed to happen. So, who knows? But we're going off the thing where we're talking about nudge and things like now it says here, this is a classic one.
It's fun just talking about stuff that comes up in chat, isn't it? It's good. It's
Right.
it kind of involves everybody then as well.
I'm really concerned about the word insane. Should it not be outside?
Good one, Sebastian.
Yeah, you're right. Make the problem so you can be the solution. But that's right. Oh, I
One
never
way of
forget.
looking at it, yeah.
There was a program. Um, I must tell you this. It's a bit rude. Now, I feel very sorry for Tourette's syndrome. I think I said this last week. A documentary about Tourette's syndrome, and in France they have this special place, which is there's a specialist psychiatrist that works on it, and there's this great big lecture theatre, and they sent these people with Tourette's to this theatre, you see, and as they're getting off the coach, they're saying piss off and fuck and all these sort of things, and then they're all sitting down quietly in this lecture theatre, and suddenly this psychiatrist walks on who's got trousers about 4 inches above his ankles, like flares, and I was always told that you can always tell someone's a bit loopy by the hang of their trousers. So if there's about 4 inches above the ankle, you're looking completely bonkers. And if it's 4 inches below the ankle, they're completely bleeding slovenly. This bloke walks in and he's a typical goof. He's got a bow tie and I think you know what's coming up. All the theatre, everyone with Tourette's said the same thing, wanker! And I was off my, I don't wish to I feel sorry for people with Tourette's, but I'm sorry. I was crying with laughter. But they all said it at the same time. So, anyway, that's got you going out, hasn't it? No, it says here, Louise Wilcox says, man shouldn't need a passport to travel. It's
Exactly.
ours
They
by
don't.
birth.
They don't own these countries. What right have they got to fence them off and say you can't come here? The
Oh,
Earth, or whatever that consists of, and let's not go there tonight. But
yeah.
why should we be restricted from where we travel? It's no business of anybody else's. They don't own the bloody Earth, do they? I think they
Well,
do.
that's right. Orson Welles said that. He said, I think in the 60s, there's a YouTube film of him saying that we need to be protected from diplomats and from authority. The average person in the street needs a protection, like a buffer against authority. Is it because I think it was in the Edwardian days, you could go to America. I don't think you needed a passport in those days, and you could start your own taxi firm with a horse and carriage, and you didn't need any license or anything like that. You just started it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, licensing is just it's another scam, isn't it? Licensing. You got to be licensed for everything these days. It's just like the government's way of stealing something from you and then selling it you back.
Hmm. Well, that's right. Well, look at the thing that they've been saying this for years. Taxing, what is it? Going to have cyclists with registration plates. I don't know how they enforce that. And you're going to have to get insurance. And
No, yeah, well, it's another revenue stream, Chris. It's just another revenue raiser. That's all it's about. They give you all this bullshit about it being, safety, and they need to be, cyclists need to adhere to speed limits, and they need to be traceable if they've committed a motoring crime or a travel crime, whatever you want to call it. So yes, it's important that we get this on, but it's nothing but more revenue raising. Just
That's
like
right.
the old camera nonsense, also, sorry, the safety camera nonsense. We
Yeah.
refer to it as safety cameras. There's no more a safety camera than, my kitchen sink. It's just a revenue raising tool. And this it's easy to prove it is because it's now become law, for those who out there are not aware, it's now become law that if you flash to signal to somebody that there's a speed trap up ahead, you will be fined £1,000 and get 9 points on your license. So if they're really interested in if they're really interested in bringing speed down, they must be grateful for people warning them not, to slow down. But of course, that's not the way of things, is it? They are just raising revenues. They're not in. Do you think does anybody actually really believe that they care a damn about our? No, I said something naughty then. Give a damn about our safety? Absolutely not.
No, you're right. You're right. And also, have you seen the skid marks in the road where these so-called safety cameras are? Because people are looking at their speedos and not looking at the camera. No, sorry, not looking at the road.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at the speedo more. I'm looking at the road.
Yeah, they know this. I mean, where I live, the main road out of Scarborough to anywhere, well, other than going north and south, certainly going west from Scarborough. Obviously, you can't go east from Scarborough unless you can swim. The road is the A64, and it's an absolute nightmare of speed traps. Then they move them all the time, so you never know where they are. I'd not got a ticket for years until I moved to Scarborough, and then I got 2 in quick succession, and almost 3. But yeah, so it's absolutely not. I'm sure most people realise this anyway, so I'm probably.
It's nothing to do with safety. You're right. It's revenue all the time, and it always makes me laugh when you go into big department stores, and say, "For your safety, we've got cameras operating. What is the roof going to fall in if the camera's not there or something? What is it for your safety? No, because they think you're a bleeding crook and you're going to nick stuff. Why can't they say that? We are suspicious of you. We think you're a crook, so we're going to be watching you as you come around the store. Why can't we be bloody honest about it?"
All of which, Chris, again, is a nudge, isn't it? Just to come back to the original topic.
You're right. It's nudging.
Yeah.
And also
it's
these
nudging
signs
in the direction of believing their bullshit, basically.
And that's right. And when you go into like a building society, sorry, there isn't any left now. There's only Nationwide, isn't it? Sorry. Well, I go into the Halifax, which was a building society, but it's supposed to be a bank now, which it isn't. And they've got a sign up. We will not tolerate rudeness to our staff or anything like that. And when I see the cashier, I say, "I'm sorry, you've upset my day because I wanted to come in here. I came in especially to be rude to you. And now you put that sign up, I can't do it now."
Well, can I just expand on that point a little bit? I don't know whether I think I did tell you, Chris. I don't think I've told the good people out there. But I had my bank account frozen in July.
Yeah, I'll ask you about that.
Yeah. I mean, I won't go into the reasons why, but because it's under. Well, basically, they've accused me of fraud, which is an absolute load of nonsense. I mean, I haven't done anything fraudulent at all. But anyway, I'm under investigation, not by the police, but by the banking system, allegedly. So anyway, that's by the by. But what I was going to say is, so I had a big argument, as you can imagine, and I didn't get heated or anything like that. But then when I came home after it calmed down a little bit, I actually looked up on the internet reasons that the bank can freeze or suspend or your account, and I've got no access to it at all now. None.
Okay. How are you surviving, John? How can you get?
Well, I had another account, so it was just. I mean, the one that I was have frozen was my primary account. So all I've had to do is just swap over the direct debits and the payments going in. So it wasn't tremendously inconvenient, but it was inconvenient enough, you know, and it was frustrating and embarrassing and all the rest of it. I had to stand in the bank and argue the toss with people about having my account frozen. But anyway, that's by the by. What I was going to say was the reasons that the banks can freeze your accounts or, you know, suspend your accounts or whatever, people should just Google that because it's terrifying. It's terrifying. They can freeze your account and you've got no comeback whatsoever if you're abusive to their staff, or if their staff determine that you've been abusive to them. So it doesn't have to be proven in court or anything like that. If the staff take a dislike to you, they can just freeze your account. You know, this is the power that these people have over us, and it's absolutely scandalous.
Well, but you're lucky to be able to go into a bank because they're closing all down around where I live.
Well, I mean, that's coming, isn't it? You know, when CBDs come in, there won't be any banks.
That's right. That's right. And also, it'll be like the censorship on YouTube. You'll have no human to speak to. It'll just be a robot. And I mean, you know, I ask questions about why my shows were banned, and I just got a robotic. The ban continues. Yeah, but
anyway, sorry, I digress. Don't we? Go on.
But anyway, I hope it's all being sorted out, John, because it's a bit.
Well, no, it isn't. It's just, I mean, I've asked them, you know, when it's likely to be sorted out, and I just get, well, we can't really tell you. It's, you know, it depends how long the investigation takes. I said, well, what's the minimum amount of time you've ever known an investigation take? And she said, like, 12, 16 weeks, maybe.
I suppose that was your only account. How would you survive?
Well, exactly. Fortunately, it wasn't. But, you know, yeah, I mean, it would have been a nightmare.
Oh,
trying to open another bank when your other one is frozen for suspected fraud.
I had a weird situation. Well, I had a weird situation.
They all talk to each other. So anyway, go on.
You're right. They're all one big
happy family.
Well, I had a weird situation once. I went into a DIY shop, a well-known one, which I won't mention the name, and and what happened is I didn't have enough money in cash on me. I normally pay in cash. It was some big tools I was buying, so I had to use my card, and it wouldn't accept it. Suddenly, but so snatched the card out of my hand. The bloke behind the counter then did something under the counter, and he said, "Oh, it's okay. It's gone through." I thought, "Hang on a minute. Something looks a bit fraudulent here." So I quickly, when I left the shop, I went to one of these holes in the wall, and I checked my account, and the right amount had been debited. I then changed my password immediately. But you know, it was a bit worrying. What he did under the counter, I do not know.
I would have been tempted to offer a new card, to be honest, but there you go.
Yeah, so I phoned the bank and they said, "Oh, everything seems to be okay."
Well, I mean, talking about going into a large hardware store, that reminds me. I think you've heard me say this before, Chris, but I'll say it again anyway. And I went into this large hardware chain store, and a man in an orange overall asked me if I wanted decking. But fortunately, I got the first punch in, so it was all right.
Oh, I like that one. That's a classic, that one. Mind you, what happened to me, this happened about 6 years ago. It's a long time ago, but you know, I like that. Do you want decking? But I was funny. I went to the tool station when the old thing was. A bloke said, "Got a mask?" I said, "What type you're after?" So yeah, this is it. Paul Green says, also no inflation for over 100 years in the so-called Wild West. That's right, because inflation is caused by usury. Because
I mean, at the time of the Wild West, there was no American central bank, so
that's right. That's right. When did the greenback go out? Was it when? Not sure about that because I know that Lincoln
Yeah,
introduced.
Lincoln brought in the greenbacks, and so did
Hmm,
Kennedy. Introduced a kind of a successor to the greenbacks as well. And look what
yeah.
happened to both of them.
Yes, it's quite amazing, and all paid by a certain family who was against them, a banking family that begins with R. Isn't that strange? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now we got here. Isn't it naive? This is Richard on Solent to believe that an anarchist society wouldn't have power of publicity. Greedy folk eventually taking control, and is going back to an even worse position. Look at
Well,
and yes, good point there. Yes.
well, I kind of get where you're coming from, Richard, but I don't necessarily believe so, mate. I think that I think this is what they kind of propagandize with that thought. It's like when they talk about socialism, and by socialism I don't mean the kind of socialism that's going on today. I'm talking about real proper socialism where people really do have a say in their own affairs. It's when they talk about that kind of a system, it's demonized because it goes against what they want. So I think we are propagandized on that particular note to a certain extent. But there are, in small ways, anarchical societies that do exist, and people cooperate.
Yes.
If people, and there are ways of dealing with people who are not prepared to cooperate, and that is to, you know, excommunicate them, for want of a better word, from that society.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying
Well,
it's perfect. No, of course. I mean, and there will always be greed and corruption, always. But it certainly has a better chance of being a more fair system than what we've got today. But having said that, I do take your point. But yeah, good point.
yeah, I agree with John because you see the thing is, yes, there'll always be greed and corruption, but when you listen to G. Edward Griffin, what he said, he says the difference
Mm,
between ordering a person to do something or a person
mm,
doing something of their own free will. Now, for example, if you are, I don't know, lifting a heavy parcel into your house and
mm,
you order somebody to assist you, they will do it against their own will and they don't really want to. But it's nicer for a person to come over of their own free will and say, "Would you like a hand?" And that is
mm.
a big difference. But
Yeah.
now Linda Carroll says, "Who brandishes machetes?" Yes, well, if you want to know more about it, it actually happened at near Waltham Cross. Apparently, it happened at a station near there. So there
What
we
is
are.
it then? I don't know.
Yeah, some blokes brandishing machetes, threatening people and robbing them. So there we go. Yes, Theobald's Grove. Apparently, it happens, but I don't. That's all I know about it. I don't know more than that. And how I found that out was um, Town Crier lives down near there, and he told me about it. He overheard it. So police everywhere. Now I've got to be careful. Can't read this one out. The violence can be connected to. Yes, you can understand why I don't read the rest of this out. I
Six
agree with you.
age.
Yes, yes, because there's something strange. I'm prone to depression. I do suffer from depression, but I've had it reasonably bad in recent weeks, and it's all right. I'm getting over it, but I'm used to it. But I've been speaking to other people that have been suffering from it where they hadn't had it before, and certain things have been erected around near where they live, same as near where I live. Certain things to do with what Louise was saying.
And did you know, by the way,
Mhm.
that for damaging one of those
Things.
erections,
Yes, erections. Yes,
it's 30 years in jail?
really.
What does
Good
that tell
heavens.
us? Yeah.
That certainly does to you because people were burning them down in Hong Kong and places like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So,
what it emphasizes to me is how important they are to them and their
yes.
control. And
I'll tell you something else I've noticed. They sort of appear overnight. I mean, the one down the road to me, I went along this road and it wasn't there. And then about 2 days later, I went past and there it was. You never see these people putting them up. Perhaps it's satisfaction guarantee with every erection. I do not know. That's that's what they say. But it sort of appeared overnight. Have you noticed that, John? These things are sort of they're not there one moment, next minute they're there.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know whether that's just because I'm so unobservant. I don't notice them going up, or whether they just do actually appear overnight. I don't know. But it could be me.
Hmm. Now, this one's an interesting one. Louise says the Jesuits, the Masons, the Illuminati, they are all connected in psychopathic minds. Yes, yes. I think you're quite right there. And I mean, Ancient Ruby said they are paid to push the fear, like a lot of things. But back to what Louise said about the Jesuits. Yes, I mean, when you look at the Masons, there are two levels. There's the Boy Scouts level. That's the the bloke next door who goes off with his briefcase and goes down to the local Masonic lodge and probably might do some good charitable stuff. Raise money for the local dog's home or something. I mean, they're harmless. I've worked with those people and they're quite nice characters. So not my scene, obviously, but then you go to the upper levels, which gets darker and darker and darker, to Duke of Kent and people, that's when it gets. And I think that's what it is. You've got to divide it in two. You've got the Boy Scouts level, and most of them that are at that Boy Scouts level haven't got a bleeding clue what's going on above them.
Oh no, to them it's just like a business. It's a way to meet people and promote your own business and mutual benefits.
Well, it's a boys' night out, isn't it? Really, that they go for a bevy and all
They
that.
haven't got a clue what goes on up here. Not
want to roll your trouser leg up and show your tit. That's whatever floats your boat, I suppose.
Apron, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just Suru. Hello, Suru. Serious question. Oh, by the way, what do you think? Lines or note from parents from Suru? We haven't seen it for some time. I think note from parents. I'm only joking. Do you think this is religious? Yeah, the devil trying to destroy God's world. They have attacked churches in a big way. I do believe in karma, and I do believe in the yin and the yang, as they say, the positive and the negative. Yes, I do think there are evil entities. I like to do a show about that because I've actually, and I do 100% believe that evil entities get into people because I've witnessed it myself. I've seen it. So I do believe it. I think you may have witnessed it, John, as well, haven't you? Sort of evil entities getting into people where they've just gone completely, they're just different to what the person you used to know, as if something's taken them over.
Whether it is an evil entity or not, but I mean, I definitely believe that there are demons around, and we see that in human form with a lot of people, mentioning no names, but a certain Mr. G comes to mind, and and a Mr. Uncle Klaus, shall we say, as well.
Oh,
Mr.
yes,
S.
Yes.
These people are demonic entities. I don't have any no question in my mind. So I do believe that there is a force of evil going on, without a doubt. And yes, to answer, sorry, I can't remember who it was that asked the question now. Sorry,
it was Suru.
Sue. To answer Sue's, you could well be right, Sue. I mean, I'm not a Christian, but I mean, I believe in everybody's right to follow whatever their belief system is, and they do attack churches. They attack the Christian church massively. It's under massive attack. So could be right. Could be right.
Well, when you look at it, there's it's on YouTube. It's still there. Can't remember who did it, but someone did. If I was the devil. And it's in 1965, this bloke read this fantastic speech out. I think he was a preacher in America. He said, if I was the devil, I would destroy the family unit. If I was the devil, I would, and he went on and on and on. And what he said, it's happening today. But I saw something in Serbia, which was quite interesting. Family Pride Day. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's all families walking along, proud to be families.
Not allowed to do that in the West. Whoa.
Ooh.
Do
And
that. No, we've got to worship, the LGBTQ community and ethnic minorities and things like that. No, families are
yes.
not good. Yeah.
Well, they destroyed the family unit, haven't they? I mean, that's what they've done. And
It's all in the protocols, isn't it?
well, that's right. That's right. And they said it was what the ones you're talking about protocols that were done in 1907, or the ones earlier
in the 1890s, but they only came to light in the 1900s, early 1900s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think they're genuine. I really do believe they're genuine because it's all come true. What's in there? Yeah.
No question. Oh my God, I've got cramp in my leg.
Well, you're right, mate. You need Himalayan rock salt, a little bit in water. That'll stop it. Your salt is low. So yes. Sebastian Moran, Chris and John will have to become Marcel. So you know the bloke line. Yeah. Now this was an interesting. He said, "I can't speak on Marcel."
Marcel.
It's right. Paul Green, woodpecker was around when I was in the RAF. It was theorized to be an over-the-horizon radar at the time, 1982. That was about the time my dad used to tune into it, I think. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they reckon it started because that is actually where the war is now. That's where it's based. Great big loads of sort of transmitting unit. But those weird number stations, they're still going. There's one from an RAF one from Akrotiri in Cyprus that just reads numbers out. That's weird. They really are strange. There's one in China as well. Now what have we got here? I would watch that one, Chris. I'll call that good entertainment. Oh, you're talking about the turrets, are you? Oh yeah, sorry. The medieval bungee jumping, I think we're calling it. Yes, that'd be good. And by the way, you're talking about evil. It's our toe rag Tony. Hello. Apparently, Mr. Blyer, a bloke wrote a book. I don't know what it's called, but he was a good friend of his, and he said he became evil almost overnight. He said he used to be a really good bloke. But now it's
a strange definition of really good bloke that I wasn't previously aware of.
Yes, I think he ran allegedly a cottage industry, didn't he? In Long Acre, but we won't talk about that. Yes. Yeah. I still think they should put a plaque outside that lavvy because it would be a good tourist attraction. Yeah, blue plaque.
Charles Linton was prosecuted here.
Yes, and they could have actors, lookalikes with their trousers down, posing next to Japanese tourists. Oh, Connie Blair. Oh. See, we're missing out. That's someone who's into business.
It's a business opportunity, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, sorry. Can you imagine it though? Or not as Tony Blair outside. You have like a sign. You can slash with. Did the dodgy deed, They could have a restaurant nearby, I think, couldn't they?
Yeah.
The bend over.
Oh dear.
Right. All these shops, this is Louise Wilcox, asking for my email, get asked for their bank account details, and then they look at me blankly. I say, well, I should imagine you want to keep your business private too. Well, I'll get them bloody pissed off. Mind you, I'll give them a junk email. So.
Well, that's the worst one when you go to make a return in these big chain stores. Well,
bloody hell!
And they want, before they'll give you a refund, they want to know your address. Well, I just told them to sod off. I mean, I've had some people just say, oh, okay. And others really argue the toss and say, no, we can't give you a refund without your address. Well, why do you need my address? Well, we just do. I said, I'll tell you why you need my address, shall you, in case you're not aware. and that your employer is not telling you why you need my address. Shall I tell you? Yes. It's because they collate a list of names and addresses and they flog them for money.
Correct.
So no, you cannot have my address, and I am perfectly within my rights to demand my refund under the terms and conditions, under the whatever it is act. Can't remember what act it is now. The Retail Act. Yeah, whatever. And then, you know, sometimes they carry on arguing, sometimes they back down at that point. But yeah, I never give them my address. They can absolutely sod off. All they do is flog it on. That's what they want it for, because they're making money out of you.
Well, I tell them my address. I say that I'm Eric Von Essex at Fockham Hall, 69, No Sex Drive, Fockham.
Oh.
By that time, I think this bloke's bleeding nutcase, isn't he?
Let's-be Avenue. That's a good address to give them.
Let's-be Avenue, yeah. But no, I always give a false address. I even said once Adolf Hitler, the bunker, but
Mickey Mouse, Disney Studios, Hollywood.
Yeah. Fear not, you cannot change your fate, but what comes after is glorious.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, when you think about it, it's surprising when you think something is negative, it sometimes turns out to be a positive. There's lots of things that you think, oh dear, what's happened? This is bad, but sometimes it's good. It can lead you to different things. It's surprising, you know. Now it says here, oh hello, we got Stewie. Hello, Stewie. Long time no see. Evening, fellow conspirators.
Truth seekers, Stewie. Truth seekers.
Yes, truth seekers. There we are. Yes, but
just kidding, mate.
No, it says here. This is Michelle Salisbury. Hello, Michelle. Not your Michelle. No, Michelle. Yeah.
Don't mind Michelle's still watching. Are you still there, Michelle?
Hello, Michelle. She might have been put off by my Michelle. You never know. We could have a battle between Michelle's.
With these for the last hour and a half.
Now, our guts are known as our second brains. You're quite true there. So maybe you won't go far wrong, Chris, by listening to it. Very good point. That's why they call it gut feeling, because it has, is it a vagus nerve that goes straight up to the back of your head, to your brain? And if you get a hairbrush and you go tap, 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 back of your head, it calms you down. Because I've been practicing tapping. You know about tapping, John? If you're a bit stressed out, you start tapping, and there's your pineal gland and things like that, and that tends to calm me down a little bit, you know.
Yeah, some people say I'm tapped, but you know that's another thing.
That's right. Right, we got V. McCrinnan. What? Oh, a personal question. This is, what is a SIM router, Chris? I'm taking tablets for it, and I'm going to get the ointment next week. Now, actually, a SIM router. I wish I could show it, but it's over next to. It's about a foot from me. What it is you, if you look up in Argos, and I haven't got shares in Argos, they do a SIM router. My one's called a TP-Link. It's about 80 quid. And I've gone to a place called Smarty. Nothing to do with Smarties. And I pay about £17 a month. And I get a SIM card, which should be for a mobile phone. And I plug it into the back of this router. And I've got unlimited internet for a month for 17 quid. And I can take it wherever I go, because it's a SIM router. And as you can see, this internet is far superior. And you're on similar, John, aren't you? You've got one from, oh, where is it?
EE.
And EE. And
E by gum.
E by gum. And that reminds me of the toilet brush joke. So we'll have to go on to that a little later. And no, it's not that bad. And so what you can do, you see, I've got a SIM router for £17, and for £4.95, I've got unlimited telephone and messaging for £4.95 a month. and with my SIM router, I've got unlimited internet for that price, and it's very, very good, and I love it. I really do. And there's no messy cables going everywhere. And if the router goes up the spout, I just go down to Argos and buy another one. I don't have to wait for it to come in the post and all that sort of crap. No, there it is. You're in control, fully in control. But now it says here, and he goes on, how do you do away with your landline? Well, if you're on a contract, and that's one thing I'm not with. I'm not on a contract with Smarty, neither with I'm with Lebara, with my mobile, with my smartphone, and I'm with Smarty, which is on the 3G network. And I can, if I find somewhere cheaper, I just sling their hook politely and go somewhere else because I'm not on any contract. Now, when you've got a landline, you have to be under a contract, but when your contract is up, tell them to politely go forth and multiply or shove it. But you have to, because what annoys me with these phone companies is, it's only £6 a month for the first 3 months. And afterwards, it's £3,000 per month, or something bloody ridiculous, But so that's what I did. And John told me about it, and I went, my landline, but you don't need it. So that's it. And also, I do not put my smartphone to my ear. I use it on open like that, like a dictaphone. And it's like the secretary walked in and said, can I use your dictaphone? And he said, no, use your finger like everybody else. Right. That's a terrible joke, that one is. Now, Stewie says, oh no, Chris, not a rude story. Well, if people could put their fingers in their ears, if they're easily offended, if you're a snowflake, please switch off immediately. Strap everything down, take pets out, people of highly nervous disposition, children, out of the room, please, because we have something that's supposed to be true. It's supposed to have happened, okay? Whether it did or not, I don't know. But I think it was in Barnsley it happened in the 1930s. And a chap walks into a Barnsley and he says, I've just got married and I'd like a toilet brush, please. So bloke says,
I bet he said, hey up.
I want the best that money can buy up. The best that money, it must sound terrible. A northern accent from a southerner, John. That's shit, isn't it? Anyway, he said, I want the best that money can buy. So a bloke says, well, we've got the genuine bristle one from China. It's just the best. Oh, he said, this is the super deluxe toilet brush. He said, you won't get better than this. I'll have that then. So he slaps his money in the bloke's hand and walks out with his toilet brush, you see. A couple of days later, the fella comes back. He slams the toilet brush on the counter and says, I want my money back. The bloke said, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? He said, me and the wife are going back to toilet paper. It's a terrible. That's supposed to be true. So I'm laughing. I've heard it before.
No, dear. Now, you get worse.
Right. Now, so Louise Wilcox, acts and statutes, all being to the statute legal system, they do not apply to man, only our corporate person. Pseudonym, I think, a personam. Yes, it's all to do with the straw man. Now, some people say it's cobblers and some people say it isn't. But it's...
I don't think it's cobblers. I just think that the problem with the straw man stuff is, I mean, it is actually law and it is right and proper and correct. But the problem is, and I know we see all these YouTube videos and, on other video channels where, people sneak cameras into courts and absolutely wipe the floor with the magistrates or whatever. But a lot of the times they don't. These people just ride roughshod over the law and just arrest them. I heard of a tale today of somebody who, came out with all the straw and stuff. Said, "No, I'm not here to defend my straw man person. I'm here to defend my legal, my lawful living persona or whatever." Yeah, and the magistrate said, "Fine." To the policeman, he said, put him in the cells until he decides to give us his real name, will you? And that was that. You know, even though what the magistrate did was illegal, they still do it. You know, so
Well,
it works in a sense, but in another sense, if they decide that they're not going to be beaten by that, then they're not. It's not that they all suddenly bow and kowtow because you've got these magic words that makes them all shiver in the boots. You know, a lot of them don't care; they'll just do anything. And so, with this
correct.
poor guy, he was in a position where, you know, no matter what he did in a lawful way, they held that power over him, you know, that he couldn't escape, and he had to stay in the cells until he gave them his real name, or
Well,
what they determined. Yeah.
well, look what happened. I mean, the late great Robert Newman, not the famous one that you see on television and things like that, but Robert Newman, the chap that I did the Mozart Meds show with, because he believed that Mozart
The music guy. Yeah,
that's right. And he said that you should not go into their court, and you should actually write to the clerk of the court, who's more powerful than the judge. And it's quite interesting what you know, he knew the law inside out, and he said you write to because once you're going into their jurisdiction, then they can write rubshop over you. So you send powerful letters to the clerk of the court, who has a lot of power. And but the thing is that I don't think there is law and order now. There just isn't. They're just riding roughshod all the time. Because I think it was, what was his name, Roger something or other. He was with UK Column for some time, and he was locked up for 2 weeks because, you know, he said, I'm here. He was representing the birth certificate, because that's your trading name. That's the way I see it. It's a bit like, you know, it's a piece of paper, because
your name in all capitals. Yeah,
that's right. Yes. And the other thing is they're in black in court because we're all supposed to be at sea and dead, aren't we? And that type of thing. It's maritime law and all that. That's right. I'm going into areas I don't fully understand, but
no, I mean, I've not looked into it in massive detail, but yeah,
no, but but when you see there's it's still on YouTube, the Straw Man. It's quite interesting. It explains it in quite detail, but again, they speak legalese in court, and they are very skillful at twisting it, turning, you know,
manipulating.
They're manipulators. They're actors, basically. They're doing it all day, every day. You're not. That's the thing. You know, it's like anything you do all day and every day, you're going to get good at it, and that's it. You know, right? Now we got here, Sebastian. I'm going to vote for Lord Humongous from Mad Max 2. Who was Lord Humongous? Yeah, I seem to recollect. That's a good idea, isn't it? Yes. Now, Aunt Sally says, I'm shocked, to be honest. Freezing John's account, that's the way it's heading for all of us, I fear. Yes, I agree. That shocked me. And actually, I heard somebody else had their account frozen. There was another person I spoke to.
Especially when CBDCs come in, central bank digital currencies, and cash is no more, which I'm not sure is going to happen. But if it does, then they will have total control over us. Not only can they freeze our accounts, but they can suspend us from buying things they don't want us to buy. They can suspend us from spending money in places they don't want to suspend it.
Well,
you know, it's total, absolute, total control. You know, it's full spectrum dominance over money.
That's right. Look what's happening in China. There's a documentary on there. They've got this facial recognition software, and if a complete stranger comes up to you and asks you directions, for example, and you talk to them for a little while, you can get points docked off of your credit system, because if that person is a criminal, for talking to a criminal. So you can do something quite innocently, give somebody directions, and of course you can't actually appeal. We can appeal, but it goes to a machine. It's a bit like appealing against getting a video banned on YouTube. You just going around ever decreasing circles. You just have to lump it, you know. But Now it says here, and not agree. You understand the police. Oh, that's right. When a cunt stable comes up to you and he says, "Do you understand?" That means, "Do you stand under?" So never say yes, always say no. That's right. It means stand under their corporate authority. Well, there was a policeman that used to live near me, and he didn't understand the law. They don't understand the law. You know, it's quite amazing. You'd thought that, you know, in that profession well, it's not profession, but in that business they would understand the law. Now this is an interesting one. Aunt Sally, Ashwanda, Ashwanda is supposed to be good for. Yes, it sounds like something it's embarrassing that you suffer from. It's supposed to be good for anxiety and depression. Thanks, Aunt Sally. I'm on St John's Wort at the moment, which is, hey man, I'm on St John's Wort, and it's something I've had all my life actually. Peace, man. You know, something I live with really. But you know, it's just one of those things. But it's quite nice when it lifts though. It really is. You know, but that's life. You know. Now it says, Stewie says, I don't have depression. You don't have a fucking pulse. If you don't have depression, you don't have a fucking pulse. That's quite correct. Yes, yes. But I'm actually giving up depression because it's too depressing. I mean, if depression wasn't so depressing, you'd have something going for it, wouldn't it, really? So there we go. So there it is. There it says here, many are, Chris, just remember, never give up or they win. Louise has a good point. That's very good, yes. Now it says here, Louise Wilcox says 30 years for damaging a lethal military grade weapon. Fuck. Paedophiles get far less. Makes you realise how satanical their system is. Well, you think Jimmy Savile was in the BBC for how many years? Now, all right, he might have got away with it once, maybe twice, but on the law of averages, he wouldn't get away with it the amount of times he was up to his nasty tricks. So that goes beyond the law of averages and the law of averages. But look who is his friends.
What did you say? The love laboratories.
Yes, yes. Got our own teeth in tonight. Now it says here, Louise Wilcox says, yeah, but they can only hold the living man for 10 days if they are not agreeing with their straw man. The way to do it is to not cross the bar and to send your birth certificate to them. And that's what a chap did.
I hear what you're saying, Louise, but if you say, yeah, legally they're only allowed to hold 10 days or lawfully, whichever way you want to phrase it. But if they decide to keep you 2 weeks or 3 weeks, what are you going to do about it?
Well, John Harris.
The point I'm making is that they just make the law up as they go along. In fact, magistrates have a very, very rudimentary knowledge of the law, so they actually make decisions that are illegal. But is there any kind of policing of them? No, there isn't. They just do whatever they want. They're a law to themselves. They've only got a very rudimentary understanding of the law. They're just ordinary people. Well, yeah. I suppose that's debatable, but.
Well, almost anyone can become a magistrate, can't they? You're just ordinary. The training, I think, is only a matter of weeks. It's not very much. It's usually people. Sorry?
It helps if you're a Mason, apparently. But, yeah.
Oh, yes, most of them are, aren't they? And miserable people. Now, it says here, the birth certificate, this is Louise Wilcox, contract, once you do a conditional agreement and send your birth certificate, they have to charge your straw man in lien against the judge. Lien, also sends them running. Done this myself. That's interesting.
Yeah, it does work sometimes, Louise. And the point I was making right from the beginning when we got onto this topic was that if they decide it's not going to work, it won't work. So they've still got total control. Some of them do it in ignorance, some of them do it deliberately. But, at the end of the day, they are the all-powerful authority. They what are you going to do if they say, well, I don't
roughshod over you.
the law, I'm just going to do what I want to do, which is what they do sometimes. And, you've lost before you begin.
Well,
Sorry, I don't mean to say it, but I'm just making a point.
Well, the late great John Harris, and I did a show with him many, many years ago, about 10, 11 years ago, and he was supposed to have committed suicide. I don't think he did somehow.
No.
He had he was quite up on the law, and he had a parking offence against him. So he sent his birth certificate and said, "Crack on." So that's it. And I don't know what happened. Yeah. It says here, okay, thank you. Perhaps you could ask Chris and John, being they use it. Use what? What do we use?
I'm talking about SIM modems again now.
Oh, SIM modems. We're in our SIM modems. Yes. Well, if you look at the party, you get like a little. I want to get commission from them. You get a little tiny SIM card, which you normally put in your smartphone, but you put it in the back of a SIM router. Now you can look SIM routers up on eBay or Amazon. I got mine from Argos. They're about 80 quid, and I haven't looked back. And the good thing about it is you are in control, because when you're under a contract with a company, now if Smarty pissed me about, and they haven't. They're a very good company. I like to give credit where it's due. So far, I haven't had any problems from Lebara, and I've had no problems from Smarty so far. So that's it. But you can save an awful lot of money, and the nice thing about it is I'm under no contract at all. My contract can end when I want, so I can go somewhere else and get a cheaper deal, and they'll probably ask me back. So this is what gets me about privatization. Yes, this is what I like about the because I'm very much for free enterprise, but not capitalism. Very different. I mean, Henry Ford had free enterprise because he could have taken over Lucas, but he didn't, because Lucas made all the electrics and things like that, because that is free enterprise. But capitalism is where the big fish eat the small fish, and you just have one big fish. So it's like communism. But what I like about now, if a phone company sods me about, I can go somewhere else. I've got a choice. And this is what makes me annoyed about water privatisation, because you've only got one company. You can't sod off to another company. I mean, it's Thames Water where I am. I can't tell them to sod off because they're the only ones that supply the water. So how can that be private? I mean, it's nonsense. It's lunacy. You've only got one company providing your water. So, anyway, it says here, now Sebastian's coming on this. Hang on. First of all, Louise Wilcox, Mason's quote, "Too bowl."
Okay, yeah.
And the judge has to paddle himself. Really? Well, I know they do. I know the thing, the sign is this, isn't it? Like distress sign or something. And if the judge is a fellow Mason, they get let off lightly. I know that was in the Brotherhood book, I think it was.
And they also say things like, "Take pity on the poor widow's son." That's also a Masonic signal.
Because it's similar to me. I got a Masonic handshake once. I think you got one, didn't you?
Well, I gave one. And I used to do it quite a lot. Not everybody responded, but I did it, just to kind of because I was in business. I was a salesperson for a large software company, and I used to do it just to see what reaction I could get. This was way before I woke up, but I knew about. I'd been invited to join the Masons, and I didn't want to. I didn't know why I didn't want to, but I just didn't. There was something about it that felt creepy to me. And so I had a mate that was in it who, kind of invited me to join. You can only join by invite, can't you? And I went to a meeting, like an open meeting, because they do have them occasionally, and I just didn't like it at all. It crept me out. I just felt really.
Creep.
And he told me about the the dodgy handshake, which is easy to do if you know what you're doing. And yeah, I just tried it out for a laugh, really. And yeah, I got some responses. Nobody ever kind of said, "Oh, right, what lodge do you belong to?" or anything like that. You're not supposed to do that. It's, it's just a sign to say that you're one of the brothers and to be treated with favour, shall we say?
Yeah, it's. I got one once. I thought it was a funny bleeding handshake, but in architecture, there's loads of masons, and I worked in an office where there's only 3 of us that weren't masons. And they all belonged to different lodges and things like that. And it was sort of assumed, but no, I wasn't. I never want to be. It freaked me out. It's not my scene. But
just found it very, very disturbing. The meeting that I went to, thought, wow.
Well,
it was
I worked around Long
Witch's Coven or something,
Yeah. Well, their head office, their head hall is in Longacre, and they've got Masonic shops down there. And you could have your hair cut by the wizard or something, or with chief wizard, and you paid certain amount. Hello, I've gone off. Where is it? The camera switch. Oh, yeah, it does it every week. Yeah. It's so you can have your hair cut by Sooty or wizard or bleeding nose. I don't know. Anyway,
mate, you do realise we're on to 2 hours now. Do you mean? Is this...
Oh bloody hell! I better sod off soon. It says I didn't know about SIM routers. I feel like a mug now. Been paying far too much. Can you watch streams on your TV, Netflix? I don't know because I haven't got a television. I don't think so. No, I don't know. Don't think so.
Not that you pay for it, you can't.
No. But I love it. And the good thing about it, you see, if I do an outside broadcast, that sounds flash, doesn't it? Like I go to Miles's place and we do a live studio audience. I just take my SIM router with me, or I use his router. Anyway, I think you better wrap things up now. And
I think so,
hang on a minute, a very
quick
one.
Not going to sleep.
That's right. I was asked to join the Masons. This is Ancient Ruby, and bluntly said no, for I knew what they did and still do. They only wanted to use my abilities, so no, and thank God I trusted me. So there we are. Yes. I've never been offered to join, actually, but I didn't.
Going back a long time.
My toilet humor.
So I'm going back almost 40 years now.
So no, I think during a ritual they wouldn't want me cracking a few gags, would they? Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight, and we'll be back same time, same place next week if YouTube don't ban us. If they do, remember, please go on to Fockham Hall Radio. There it is, going on the bottom like that. Please ding the little bell, put the thumbs up, all that, and also if you want John's dooflop, where is it? Where's your dooflop, John? I'm looking for your dooflop.
You leave my dooflop out of this.
There it is. Here's his dooflop. Here's his website. See, there we are, and here's his contact number here. See, and all that. So there we go. So thank you very much for joining us, and remember, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh, and good night.